This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Thank you for listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, where we discuss everything in the wide world of sports. I'm Ben.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Anthony.
And we are back here on a Wednesday. All three of the boys here.
It's the boys' club today. Boys rule.
Well, the boys are always here on sports.
The boys are back in town.
So we are back in town. That's a good one.
Then Lizzie.
The three Musketeers are back. The three
Nice.
amigos.
Oh. Can I be Martin Short?
If you want, even though you're like the tallest one, so there's a little irony there, but
But the movie.
I know, but you
Okay, then I'll be
saying.
Steve Martin then.
Okay.
Okay. I like Steve Martin better anyway. Do you like Steve Martin?
I like Steve Martin.
Good actor.
Do you like Martin Short?
Who's the third one?
It's not Bill Murray.
No, it's not Bill Murray.
No, I don't know. I don't think I've ever really watched that movie from beginning to end. But I just,
As you look it up.
As I look it up, yeah, because I'm gonna know this. I'm going to make sure that I know it because I see the picture right here. There's restaurants that are like, oh, come here, Three Amigos. That's not it. Chevy Chase.
Oh, that makes sense.
You're Martin Short. You're Chevy Chase.
I'm Chevy Chase.
Yeah.
That's fine. I love Christmas Vacation.
That's the one you like?
Christmas Vacation?
You don't just like regular vacation?
No. Christmas
You
Vacation.
gotta love holiday vacations better.
I like the most recent vacation with Ed. I forget his last name. The one from the
Ed
Hangover.
Helms?
Ed Helms from the Hangover.
Was that good?
Oh, what was that? It was
wasn't-
literally called like
Vacation.
It's just Vacation, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bad movie, but it wasn't horrible. Like, I wasn't upset that I saw it or anything. Let's put it that way.
with Christina Applegate too.
Yeah. Like I
didn't
enjoyed
bother.
it. I went to that place, Studio Movie Grill. That's out here-ish. It's that place you can have dinner and drinks and stuff and watch. I mean, at least that.
I went to one of those. I went to one of those in Mexico when I saw X-Men.
You told me, yeah.
It was very good. It was nice.
The place?
Yes, and
Yeah.
the movie.
The movie's okay.
Yeah. Well, okay, Mr. Superhero guy over here just
Well,
have to
no, I mean, I enjoyed
analyze
it.
everything.
I enjoyed it more than my brother did, but, like, to be fair, it wasn't as good as the one before it. It's just a fact, Ben.
Okay.
That's just the way the world works.
It is. All right, well, anyways, into the show. We are talking a lot of baseball today. We have the ALCS and the NLCS. We have games from last night to talk about as well as games tonight to talk about. We're going to be talking some football. We have some news about a certain running back, really a team with a lack of running back depth right now. Had to make a trade yesterday with the game coming up on Thursday, just tomorrow. So a lot of question marks going for the Green Bay Packers backfield right now, as well as Vontaze Burfict. Should he be suspended for what he did to Martellus Bennett and really LeGarrette Blount in Sunday's game against the Patriots? I know Alex is very vocal about what he did to Antonio Brown in the playoffs last year.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, not at all? Okay, well, your facial expression just said it all. But we'll have to discuss Vontaze Burfict in our second segment. And then we will end the show with what's trending. Got a lot of great storylines. I can't wait to tell you about this Bill Belichick story and his love of technology.
There was this guy that I saw on Twitter that said Vontaze Burfict, more like Vontaze Perfect.
More like not perfect.
More like no. More like Vontaze More like Vontaze cut it out. I hate it.
I mean, we'll talk about it because obviously I know you're going to be very opinionated about it given his history. But
I keep it on the calm. You know, I'm not too outspoken about what I want done to him. So,
well, we'll save that for the second segment. But first,
Okay.
Let's talk some baseball here. So let's talk first about the ALCS. So last night we had Game 4. The Blue Jays come out on top 5-1. They avoid elimination. The Cleveland Indians were going for the sweep, but Toronto win Game 4 5-1. A great pitching performance from Aaron Sanchez. He only gives up 1 run in 6 innings. Had a home run from Josh Donaldson, who gave a pregame speech where he was obviously very amped up The Blue Jays offense, their bats really came to life last night for the first time in the series. They're down 3-1. They're still going to be facing a really tough battle. Cleveland will have another home game coming up. So Corey Kluber was on the mound for the Tribe on short rest. He gave up 2 runs in 5 innings, did strike out 7. So he didn't pitch terrible, but he didn't really shut him down like he has been all year long. I realize hindsight's 20/20, guys, but do you think maybe they should have had him pitch Game 5 if necessary instead of Game 4? Give him a little bit more rest?
Yeah, I mean, I understand it. I mean, I get they're trying to close it out and everything. And it's not like he got, wrecked yesterday. The Blue Jays did a really good job of manufacturing runs as opposed to just getting them all in one. I mean, yeah, Donaldson had his home run, but you had a single to center that scored somebody. You had a single to center from Encarnacion later in the game that scored a couple. You had a sacrifice fly near the end of the game that scored somebody. So they really manufactured it instead of some of these games we've been seeing that's really more like 2-3 pitches separated because guys are hitting home runs. So it's not like he got just absolutely taken care of. I mean, he pitched well at times. Like you said, he went 5. He just had a really slow streak at the beginning and gave up those 2 earned runs to start the game in back-to-back innings. But, yeah, I guess in hindsight, you would have wanted him on full rest. I mean, Kluber's been lights out the entire year. I think they're definitely in a tough spot. I mean, coming into tonight's game, they have – let's see who the starting pitch is. It's Merritt versus Estrada. So, I mean, yeah, I think you'd rather have your guy going, Ryan Merritt is he's no Corey Kluber, but
he's a rookie.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess in that elimination game, yeah, you would want your best pitcher, and I definitely understand why they put him there. I forget how short the rest was, though.
He was pitching on 3 days.
Okay, that's almost a full rest. But still, no, I mean, I get it. In hindsight, yeah, but you don't think of that going into the game. You want to win, so you put your best pitcher out there. Like the same thing with like the Giants. Say they were in an elimination game and they put out Bumgarner. Would you blame them? You know what I mean? Even if they ended up losing, like, would you blame them? Put your best pitcher out there. I get it. I understand it.
And this whole postseason, we've kind of seen pitchers kind of be put in weird situations. We've seen Kershaw come in and get a save and stuff like that. Yeah. It's just one of those things of, especially with someone like Francona, he's been through the other side of the thing. They're up 3-0, kind of wants to close it out. Just let's get the sweep. Let's just not worry about anything. Let's get some rest because it looks like the NLCS is going to take a while. Mm-hmm. So I don't blame him for it. Like, Kluber's been the guy for them for the last, 3 years. Last year he had a rough year, but before that, 18-9, the same thing. So he's been one of those guys that's been relied on for a while for them. And, I can't knock the manager for deciding, all right, I want my best pitcher to basically be the guy that, ends this, and so we don't have to worry about it anymore. Now, worst case scenario, maybe he goes Game 7 if all just totally goes, sideways. But, with what Francona's done, I can't really blame him.
When Kluber left the game, it was 2-1. So it's not like
exactly.
Like you guys mentioned, it's not like he got lit up. It's not like the game was out of hand. Really, just the Indians' bats just did not step up last night. They had 2 hits the whole entire game. Sanchez gave up 2 hits through 6 innings, and then the bullpen didn't give up a hit the last 3 innings. So it was really just good pitching performance by Toronto. Their bats came to life. Cleveland just struggled last night. They still have a 3-1 series lead unless they just absolutely blow everything up like the Red Sox did against the Yankees way back. They're the only team to ever come back from a 3-game deficit. I don't see Toronto doing that. Maybe I'll give them the edge tonight. Maybe a little better starting pitch-up matchup. I think Marco Estrada can probably go a lot longer, a lot better. So maybe they win tonight at home, but then you have a couple games in Cleveland. Mm-hmm.
We've seen what this Cleveland bullpen does, especially with the day before yesterday's game, with just that combined effort from everybody in the bullpen.
Especially Andrew Miller. He's capable of going 7th, 8th inning, just lights out until you get to a closer.
Yeah. He's definitely a bridge, kind of really solid. Yeah, like you said, he can go more innings than you think he can. So I think they have the pitching advantage currently still. So it's hard to not give it to Cleveland with the way they've been playing in the postseason. They really do look like the best team in baseball remaining. So,
okay, now let's switch over to the National League side. This is probably a little more, I'd say, worrisome for the best team in baseball, and that's the Chicago Cubs. Last night they lose 6-0 to the Dodgers. The Dodgers now have a 2-1 lead in the series. This is only the 4th time that a team has been shut out in back-to-back games, and they have 4 hits or less.
Yep.
The Cubs are not hitting.
No, they're very much so kind of going along the you get a hitter, they're striking out almost. You know what I mean? They're very high risk, reward kind of deal right now. I mean, you're right. They had 4 hits. They couldn't get anybody in there. Nobody had more than 2 hits. Bryant was the only one with 2. You know, a lot of guys went hitless last night. Rizzo had a hit, and Dexter Fowler had a hit. That's it. You know what I mean? You had a lot of guys who were in there to hit. You know what I mean? Whether you have Puig coming in, you have Hayward, you have Montero. Like, you have guys on your roster that are supposed to be hitters, And Baez, who's still been struggling. Rizzo's still struggling. It's just this offense has gone cold. And it's weird because, they were – I mean, even in the NLDS against the Giants, they weren't an amazingly potent offense.
Rizzo only had 1 hit the whole time against the Giants.
It was the last game. In a point in which it didn't matter at that time.
Right.
Rizzo got a hit last night.
Yeah.
With that, he's hitting 2 for 26 in the postseason. This was an MVP candidate during the regular season.
His average is currently 0.091.
He got a hit last night, and he's hitting 2 for 26. He had 1 hit going into the game last night.
Yeah. There's a lot of guys on the Cubs from last night for sure that had none of them that were playing great in general. I want to see what Rizzo's average is through the postseason currently because
it's 0.91.
Well, I think that's for last night's game.
No, that's for the whole postseason. He's hitting 2 for 26.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Okay, so what do you think Joe Madden and the rest of the Cubs need to do to try and turn this around? Like, I feel like a lot of that pressure of sort of the over 100-year curse of the World Series, the Billy Goat, Steve Bartman, whatever you want to call it, I feel like all that pressure, as well as being the best team in baseball all year long, is kind of getting to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I realize right before the All-Star break, they were kind of struggling. Then they had the All-Star break to try and recuperate, and then everything in the second half was fantastic. But in the playoffs, you don't have that. You have a day between games, maybe 2 if you're traveling. So what do they need to do to try and turn things around here? I feel like they have an advantage tonight going against only the young 20-year-old Julio Urias for the Dodgers, and you're going to have a wily veteran in John Lackey on the mound. So I think they have the pitching matchup tonight. But if they're not hitting, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, they need to start hitting. They need to start getting runners in scoring position. They need to start capitalizing because their pitching. They have the advantage tonight. You have I think it's the biggest difference in age between a starting pitcher between each other in an NLCS matchup ever.
John Lackey's 37 and Urias is 20. So a 17-year difference.
He's the youngest to start an NLCS.
He's literally old enough to be his father.
How old did you say he was?
20 compared to 37.
37. He could be, as a very young father.
He's old enough to be his dad.
He could be 17. I mean, I think they definitely have the advantage pitching wise. They need to take advantage of Urias because he's definitely been up and down this year too.
Yeah, he's just so young. He's never been in a situation like this. Obviously, a lot of potential. He's going to be obviously one of their aces for the next few years to come. But he's only in his second postseason game. He pitched well in Game 5 in a big game against the Nationals. He went 2 innings. He actually got a win in that game. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, this is a lot different. He's facing the Cubs, who are struggling right now, but they're still the best team in baseball. A big NLCS game. So you have the advantage there. And really, for the Dodgers, they're playing on house money. No one expects them to win. They're playing confident. If they don't win this series, it's going to be like, oh, well, you played the Cubs. You weren't expected to win. The Cubs are the ones with all the pressure on them, not the Dodgers. So they're playing loose. They're playing free. Yasmani Grandal, a big 2-run home run last night in the 4th inning. Corey Seager's playing well. He had 3 hits again last night. He's got a .364 average in the postseason. He's just a rookie. Probably going to win Rookie of the Year on the National League side.
I would imagine. No, well, what about?
I'll give it to Seager. He's been the most impressive rookie really in baseball in my eyes.
Do you think he's winning Rookie of the Year or MVP?
Rookie of the Year.
Oh, okay.
No, not MVP.
Okay, it's like, no, sorry.
No way.
Other side.
Rookie of the Year, definitely. But
yeah. He's been the most impressive rookie.
He's been basically maybe even the MVP of the postseason so far for the Dodgers. He's been their best player
he had
in
a
my
big
eyes.
hit last night. Who didn't with them? I could see that. I can agree with you on that.
And you look at the Cubs, you have, if you're Cubs fans, you're probably shook right now. You're scared. You're not wanting anything to go wrong. You're going to look for the new Bartman to blame if anything goes south. And you got Urias, who is up and down, but over this last, 9 starts, including postseason, he's got like 1.26 ERA, and he's 5-0.
Yeah, he really came on strong at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm a Cubs fan, I'm still not worrying. You know, it's 2-1. It's not like they're sitting on the edge of elimination or anything. People worry about a lot of different stuff. I'm also, if I'm a Cubs fan or a player, I mean, maybe a fan, especially an old, cynical fan.
Yeah, Cubs fan, player.
As a player, yeah, I'm not going to sit there and let something that doesn't have to do with me, you know what I mean, at all, affect how I'm doing in that moment. You know, so what, they hadn't won a World Series in that many years. That just gives me that much more motivation to go do that. So I don't buy into that necessarily. But if I'm a fan, I'm like, come on.
I'd be definitely worried. Tonight is
not as a player, as a fan, maybe. Yeah.
In my eyes, tonight is a must-win because if you go down 3-1, you still have to run into Clayton Kershaw one more time.
Yeah.
If you're down 3-1, that means you have to beat him.
Yeah, you need to go into a game that Kershaw's pitched.
I think you definitely need to even the series tonight. Going down 3-1, you're going to have to play Kershaw again. Yeah. Rich Hill's been great so far ever since they traded for him at the deadline.
Yeah.
If you go to Game 7, you'll probably have to run into him again. So this is a must-win in my eyes for the Cubs in a game where they honestly should win.
Well, as it stands right now, Game 5, which would be on Thursday, it's Leicester versus undecided at the moment. It's not announced yet. If it's an elimination game, I would almost feel like I would guarantee Kershaw would be thrown out there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they need to win this one because, like you said, I mean, you don't want to face Kershaw in an elimination game. Face him in a game in which you can lose, at least not want to lose, but a game that you can afford to lose in the sense of you're not going home afterwards. So, yeah, I think they need to win this one. I think Lackey has the experience. I gave the pitching advantage last time Lackey pitched away from him. I think he pitched very well that game. So I think, try to jump on the kid early. Try to rattle him, try to get to him because this is a big spot for somebody who is so young. And in flip-flop, the Dodgers need to keep jumping early. They need to score first. They need to keep attacking like they have been. So this is going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a good series. I still think Cleveland is probably the favorite going in through all of it right now. And I would really love to see a Cleveland-Chicago one because you got two of the best teams from the entire year. But hey, man, we see crazy stuff. You just don't know what's going to happen.
It's very true. It's very true. All right, guys, so we'll take our first break at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Coming out of the break, we're going to talk some NFL news, in particular, Eddie Lacy of the Green Bay Packers and Vontaze Burfict, linebacker of the Cincinnati Bengals. Some quick hits here in the National Football League right after the break at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And we are back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, talking some quick NFL news. We're going to talk first of all about Eddie Lacy of the Green Bay Packers. Obviously, Eddie Lacy played last week against the Dallas Cowboys. He didn't play too bad, 17 carries for 65 yards. But he is nursing an ankle injury. So now on a short week, they will be playing the Chicago Bears tomorrow on Thursday Night Football. Reports are that Eddie Lacy's not only going to miss tomorrow's game, but he might be out several weeks. Reports are that it's a lot more than just an ankle sprain. There might be some damage to that ankle. He's going to be going in for a test today. So the Packers yesterday did trade for veteran running back from the Kansas City Chiefs, Knile Davis. He is their only active running back on the roster if Eddie Lacy does not play tomorrow, which is obviously reported. And he's only coming in 2 days before a game, so he obviously can't know much of the offense.
Yeah, I mean, there's a basis of an offense and the running schemes and stuff. A lot of terminology is the same with a lot of places. If that's the case, then then you're in a good spot. And like you said, he's the only running back on the roster. James Starks just went knee surgery. He will be going.
He's on IR.
Yeah, he'll be having knee surgery, and that's another person put on the IR. Sam Shields just got put on the IR with concussion symptoms and all of that business, which is unfortunate. I mean, they've really got the injury bug this year, to say the least. I mean, they have Ty Montgomery, who has played
as well as Randall Cobb,
back, as well as Cobb.
They're wide receivers, but they've played running back for some time. And Montgomery didn't actually do too bad against Dallas. He had 10 catches for 98 yards, which most of them were out of the backfield. He also had 3 carries for 12 yards. So he can be more of a kind of like reminds me of like a Darren Sproles, Dexter McCluster type, just really a receiving back out of the backfield. I wouldn't imagine him getting too many carries.
Knile Davis is a weird kind of running back because, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's the Chiefs, they're really weird in the way they do stuff with the running back position because clearly they traded him because they have a very nice crop of running backs. They have Jamal Charles who's back from injury, obviously. He has Spencer Ware, who even with him back is lighting it up still. And then Sharkhandrick West is kind of a bowling ball type. Knile Davis kind of didn't fit because he was a little bit bigger than Jamal, but he did a lot of the same things. He was returning kicks at times. But even the very first time, all 3 of those running backs have done very significant damage in games at different times when Jamal Charles has been injured. Knile Davis being the first one to do so, then Sharkhandrick a bit, and then, of course, Spencer Ware last year and so far this year. But, yeah, he's had a really interesting go of things. Even though he got traded because, he was kind of underutilized, he's still somebody who has shown they can do good things for a team, in need. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do from there because, yeah, he's the only running back on the roster. Whether they use Randall Cobb more or Ty Montgomery, you figure they'll have to get another running back at some point from somewhere or some way,
You have to think they'll probably promote someone maybe. Hopefully, they do have some young guys that they could fill in. Don Jackson's a rookie from Nevada. Maybe they bring him up. He's been on the practice squad really since the end of the draft. He was undrafted. So
yes, he was.
He probably is really familiar with the offense. Maybe we'll have to see how Knile Davis does. I wouldn't expect really too much out of him, only coming into the offense literally 2 days before a game. He's not going to really know much. So,
but I guarantee he'll probably have to be the one to lead the way. At least I would imagine. Because
for tomorrow's game, absolutely.
Tomorrow's game, yeah. Because purely based off the fact that you went and got him, you need to start him. Whether or not they bring up Don Jackson, he's going to know the offense. He took reps last week in preparation for possibly having to come up for Sunday's game. Took reps with the first team. He, if anything, he'll be prepared. At least he knows the offense, I imagine, well. You know what I mean? But I imagine the leader in terms of pure running back, would be Knile Davis, and then I guarantee they'll get cute and do a lot of the Montgomery, Randall Cobb stuff as well.
Yeah, and they probably don't have to rely on him that much, Knile Davis, because he hasn't had over 50 yards since September 29th of 2014, so it's been a minute since he was kind of like relied on, like you said, back when Jamal Charles was injured and everything else like that. He was helping him out. But the thing is, the lucky part for the Packers is it's a short week. It's in Green Bay. They're playing the Bears, which they've been terrible the whole year, so it's not like they have to get up against like a Patriots or even a Steelers, a Big Ben kind of thing. But the one good thing for the Packers is you have somebody who you can at least rely on while Eddie Lacy's gone. You still have Aaron Rodgers, who's not been the same guy he was in the past. But, for the Packers, like I said, they have to play the Bears. I would expect Lacy to probably or not Lacy, Davis to get, somewhere around like 50, 60 yards, just enough for them to like actually have the running game matter.
Yeah, I mean, that adds to the offense. It's already in a weird kind of flux, that the Patriots have been in. So a running game would be a nice addition to help this offense in a way.
It's possible. I mean, Knile Davis is a guy that's definitely got a lot of speed. Look at what he did in the playoff game last year for the Chiefs against the Texans. He returns the opening kickoff back for a touchdown. So not only can he maybe help with the offense, but maybe they can put him in on some special teams and he can help out there. They're going to be sending a late conditional pick, so I'd imagine 5th or 6th round pick maybe. Knile Davis was a healthy scratch the last few weeks for the Chiefs. You mentioned their running back backfield, just a lot of good guys. Knile Davis isn't like a terrible running back. He's able to contribute. They just have so many guys above him. So I guess the deal makes sense, and we'll have to see where the Packers go from here. I feel like tomorrow's a really big game for Green Bay. Really struggling. Their offense has been criticized, really going back even to last year. Aaron Rodgers has said that he really just needs to be a little more accurate, needs to calm down more. He's going to drink a glass of scotch and watch a movie. That's what he said.
Watch film,
whatever. So
not a
you know
film.
what I mean. But so I think he's kind of been been sort of scrutinized, and I think he really needs to realize he needs to kind of calm down, and he's feeling a little bit of the pressure. And I feel like a big game tomorrow on national TV, a really important game for Green Bay, trying to keep pace with Minnesota there in the NFC North. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. If there's any time to turn it around, it's against Chicago, who are really, really bad. Defense is really bad on a short week. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with Green Bay. I know you guys will preview the game tomorrow, so I don't want to go too in-depth. But with that, let's move on to Vontaze Burfict, Alex, a guy one of your favorite players, right? One of your favorites?
Who?
Okay, so Vontaze Burfict, obviously we know about his history going back to the playoff game against the Steelers last year, knocking Antonio Brown out of that game with a concussion for his hit. And then Vontaze Burfict only comes back a couple weeks.
No. You forgot one. And then he hurt Roethlisberger.
And he hurt Le'Veon Bell, didn't he?
And he hurt Le'Veon Bell earlier in the year.
I'm sorry. Just the Steeler hater, Vontaze Burfict. But only been back a couple of weeks now. And what does he do against New England? Well, he targets Martellus Bennett. He goes low on him on a ball that was clearly over Bennett's head, and he had no chance of catching the ball. And then you have...
he threw it to he didn't throw it to him. He threw it to a different
No, I know,
receiver.
but it was like... It flew over Bennett's head. So I guess as a DB or a linebacker, you could say, oh, maybe he was getting it. But this was way over his head at the time. So he wasn't even involved anymore.
Okay.
And then you have LeGarrette Blount scoring a 1-yard touchdown run. And you have Burfict go into kind of the pile where all the players are standing near the goal line and kind of step on LeGarrette Blount. And did you guys see that play? I think
a double step.
I think the best thing about that was Gronkowski's dance. Just throwing that out there. He's up there sort of twirling his hips and doing a Daniel Bryan-esque fingers in the sky little dance. That was perfect. If you haven't seen it,
it was weird.
If you haven't seen it, that was great. But back to the story. So Vontaze Burfict steps on LeGarrette Blount's ankle. So Vontaze Burfict, obviously we know, dirty player. Reports are that the Bengals think that Burfict will not even get suspended for this. Agree with that or no?
No. I mean, I think he should be fined. Definitely fined. But I don't know if he should be suspended. I mean, suspension, it clearly, if he's doing it intentionally, what they did hasn't worked.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think definitely fined. He'll get fined for sure. This would be the 9th time that he's been fined for on-field misconduct. Previous, so far, combined, $69,000. Doesn't include his last 3 game checks that were lost when he was suspended.
Yeah, he's kind of one of those players. It's just that's kind of what you expect with him. Not to say it's okay, but it's one of those things. His hit on Bennett was clearly intentional, but it wasn't super egregious. It wasn't one of those things that was just a thing. Because you also had the thing where Bennett still stayed in the game, right? If Bennett had came off with, a knee injury, then he'd be suspended. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things that, you punish more the result of the thing than the actual act because, like you said, he took out Antonio Brown. He took out Ben Roethlisberger. He took out Le'Veon Bell. Sorry about that.
It's all right.
And so, had he done one of those things, had Bennett come off with a torn ACL or a meniscus or whatever else like that, then I think you'd see Burfict get a lot more, pub for this. Instead, it's just kind of one of those extra stories of oh, yeah, Burfict, he did that again. What he always does, he hurts people.
Given his history, you mentioned, Alex, 9 times he's been fined, suspended last year. I think another fine would just be giving him a slap on the wrist. I think you honestly need to throw down the hammer as much as you can. I'd say suspend him maybe another 3 games, maybe 4 games, because it's not like he just had 1 bad play. He had 2. So I think you need to not be so nice to Burfict here. I think you need to throw down the hammer on him.
Well, it is being reported that he has been fined.
That's it.
He's been fined $75,000 for his stomp of LeGarrette Blount.
That's pretty hefty, though, $75,000.
Mm-hmm.
But
I have more news for you too. If you
I still think that's a slap on the wrist, though.
I have some more.
Go ahead.
Starting news. This has nothing to do with this. So if you want to finish this conversation out, I will tell you that news in a minute. I actually have 2 pieces of news. I'm on fire right now.
You are just.
I'm like fuego. Adam Schefter.
You're just en fuego right now.
I'm en fuego. So if you want to finish your point.
But yeah, I think just that fine. I realize $75,000 is pretty harsh. That's a lot of money. But I still think that's a slap on the wrist. I think you need to hit him where it hurts him most, and that's missing games. I think that obviously the Bengals are not going to do anything. They're going to let the league handle everything, which is what happened. But I think someone needs to sit this guy down and say, look, man, you're not helping us right now by doing all this stuff. You're hurting us by not being on the field. Because if you take away the dirtiness of Vontaze Burfict, he's a pretty good football player. He's a good linebacker, as much as you may hate him. He's a good player. So him doing all these antics is just really hurting the team, and I think that's just a slap on the wrist. I think they should have suspended him probably 3-4 games because maybe then he'll finally get it into his head that he needs to. I realize you don't have to be a dirty player, but you can be a physical player. Mm-hmm. But there's a fine line that you're crossing here, and it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think there's a fine line, and he seems to cross it every year.
And you talk about someone should go to the team and talk to him. Who is going to talk to Burfict? Like, who's going to actually sit him down and be like, hey, look, Vontaze, you kind of are doing these things. Like, he's not going to change what he does. Like, you can be nice. I mean, maybe Pac-Man can be actually the one that can say it on this team if anybody can actually say it. But, like, he seems to be the person that's just like, I'm going to do this, and if I get fined, I get fined. If I get suspended, I get suspended. Like, he's not changing how he is. Like, he's been doing this since Arizona State. Like, and he's not a rookie in the league. Like, this is him. Like, for better or for worse, he's the guy that's going to get good plays, also very dumb plays that may, get him suspended for 3 or 4 games.
I agree with you on that. All right, well, you ready for some of my breaking news?
Let's go.
3 things.
Should we save it for what's trending?
Yes.
Okay, well, Don't get too ahead of yourself then. We need to take a break first.
Yeah, good call. So let's take our last break, and we'll be right back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And we're back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, and it's time for some What's Trending. And, Ben, we have the most trending of trending because we have things that are literally breaking as we speak.
Well, then go for it, bud.
As of right now, the Jets plan to name Geno Smith their new starting quarterback today. Reported by Adam Schefter 5 minutes ago.
That's not what Todd Bowles said on Monday, so kind of interesting.
And then he backtracked a little bit yesterday.
Kind of interesting there. Mm-hmm. I guess I can understand they did bring in Ryan Fitzpatrick at the offseason because he was really just their best option.
I'm sorry, I think you mean Ryan Fitzmagic.
Fitz no magic this year. But they paid him $12 million a year. He's obviously not your future. So I guess Geno Smith's not really your future either. We've seen what he can do. So maybe they go to Geno Smith. If that doesn't work out for a couple weeks, maybe they turn to Bryce Petty. I mean, they have 4 quarterbacks if you include Christian Hackenberger, who they drafted this year. Mm-hmm. So I guess they need to try and find out who their identity is at the quarterback position. So I guess it's a good move. I mean, at 1-5,
shake it up. Just try something different.
I realized Kansas City was 1-5 last year, and they finished so strong. But this is not Kansas City. The Jets are not the same team. So yeah. I guess I understand it. I don't know if I necessarily agree with it, but. Yeah. 11 interceptions from Fitzpatrick through 6 games. That's not acceptable.
All in the second half of the game, no touchdowns to speak of. Yeah, pretty bad.
It's not acceptable. You can't be doing that. So I guess I'm not surprised.
Neither am I.
Yeah, and you can get away with it if you're Fitzpatrick if you're winning games. But the fact that they're 1-5, that doesn't help anything out. And the one that they have was barely 37-31 against the Bills. But you've gotten blown out by the Chiefs. You got blown out by the Steelers. You got blown out by the Cardinals. You got blown out basically by the Seahawks.
Fist pumping the Steelers one.
Everybody, with the exception of that
pretty
game
much blew
against the Bengals,
yeah,
week 1.
Yeah, and that's just week 1 because you basically had a whole year to prepare. Mm-hmm. So, it's one thing with Fitzpatrick. Like we saw last year, he was a decent quarterback. He wanted his money, and nobody wanted to give him his money. He went all around the league trying to get the money, and eventually went back to the Jets and was like, okay, I'll take the contract you gave me, okay.
Yeah.
But now you get Geno Smith, and I mean – to be fair to Geno, he was going to be the quarterback before IK and Pauly just broke his jaw. So, I mean, he, was slated as the starting quarterback. Now, once he got into the game last week, had a fumble and an interception in a very short time.
Yeah, he looked great.
Yeah, so, but I mean, they have the Ravens, which that's not going to go as well for them. But, at least you got a little bit of time to you only have 4 days. That's not the same thing. Well, maybe, you also have the whole history. No, you don't have the history of the Jets. I got nothing for you. I don't know how to help Geno Smith out. This is going to be terrible. I'm trying to help him out.
It's okay.
I'm trying to think of positive things. Nothing's happening. This is
okay. Maybe somebody will break his jaw or something. And it'll just be like, okay, well, who do we start now? Of course, no, I don't want to break his jaw. So, all right, moving on. So Ben Roethlisberger told the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette that the doctor said his knee looked good. He had build-up from last season's bone bruise. That kind of jeopardizes his chance to return after the bye week 9 with Baltimore. He said there's no way to put a timetable exactly on it. Depends on how I feel. Well, now after from the mouth of the player himself, it's kind of weird that I'm seeing timetables and such. But anyway, the latest from Chris Mortensen's post-surgery outlook for Big Ben shifted from 2 to 3 weeks to 4 to 6 weeks as of right now. I don't know what to believe. I'll just, I never put timetables on Roethlisberger's injuries because who knows when he'll be back. As of right now, the Steelers have the Patriots on Sunday. They have the bye week. They have the Ravens, the Cowboys, and the Browns. So it'd be interesting to see exactly when he comes back. I don't take much, I don't put much salt in timetables with Roethlisberger. They sometimes say 2 weeks and the dude's playing that week. So I never know.
He's clearly been one of those guys that is not afraid to play through a little bit of pain.
Yeah,
it seems like
we saw in the playoff game with the Broncos last year.
It seems like every year
a lot of other times.
Big Ben has some sort of nagging injury a little bit, but he still plays through. I mean, he returned to the game last week.
Yeah, and he's played through a full season twice.
And now he's getting surgery on at least a partially torn meniscus. So, I mean, he even played last week. So 4 to 6 weeks, I'd expect him back in 3. I mean,
I'll give him shorter than longer. Yeah, I still think this is a quote unquote short term kind of injury as long as there's no setbacks, of course, and then knock on wood, fingers crossed. I mean, he's a Steeler fan, they obviously Steeler fans everywhere want him out there. But yeah, I'm not gonna put much into it as much into it as one would based off the fact that I'm hearing two different things, and it is Roethlisberger. We've seen him do a whole lot, less in less time. So.
How did he actually play in that game? Like, honestly, I understand
at the end of it.
No, I understand adrenaline's a thing, and you can play through a lot of stuff. Phillip Rivers played through a torn ACL and stuff like that. But clearly he was hurt, and they just kind of sent him back. They're like, no. The
doctors cleared him to play. Weirdly enough,
that's my question. How did the doctors clear him to play? Did they just
because
look
he
at
probably
him
lied. He's probably look at it this way. He has it's the same knee he sprained his MCL with last year, and he had the bone bruise, and it's one of his knees that he has scoped every year. It's an injury that he's had for a while,
right?
So he could just it's probably extra sore. Even maybe for him, he didn't know the exact extent of the injury, but maybe he was just straight up like, no, I'm fine, I'm good, let's go.
Just didn't even talk. What's wrong?
I mean, that's how Roethlisberger is.
True.
We saw in the Bengals game, a playoff game, where he came out because of his shoulder, and he went up. He went in when he couldn't even throw the ball with any oomph, 25 yards, and he ends up making 2 solid throws, and one of them that unfortunately put Antonio in a bad position and kind of and propelled them to the field goal. But that had a little bit on it. You know what I mean? That's just what he does. I remember going to the Monday Night Football game between the Niners and the Steelers in 2012, 13, whatever year the lights went out.
Oh, yeah.
At Candlestick. And he was playing that game on a sprained ankle, like a severely sprained ankle. That's the year they lost to 11, probably. That's the year, something like that. They lost to Tim Tebow in the playoffs. And he still had that injury. He was still hobbled then, and this was, I think, week 10 or 11 or 12. And it was fresh, that week. And he played the whole game in that. And you've seen where it harms them and does better for them. They lost that game 20-3. We saw back in the playoff last year, especially, say, the shoulder with the Denver game, he put them in every position they needed to be in to win that game. So we'll see, we'll have to see how it goes.
And we saw last year with the Steelers, they faced the Baltimore Ravens in week 4 with Michael Vick, and they won the game with Michael Vick.
They didn't.
Or they lost the game.
Won in double overtime.
That's right, they lost in overtime. That's right.
They lost because they still had a garbage kicker, and they went and got Boswell, and all was good. Dude, as a Steelers fan, you don't know how many games we lost last year because of those kickers. Boswell, lights out. I love that guy. The Wizard of Boz is what his Twitter handle is. Dude's hilarious.
Chris
what
Boswell,
play on words.
Penn State, like the kid. Good kicker. He's just, he only came into the league and made his first 3 kicks of 45 yards or more. Like, those are his first 3 kicks, like a 45, a 47, and a 47 or something, and he nailed him. I forget who they traded for from the Saints, from the Jaguars. I forget the dude's name, but just sunk our ship. Anyway, they lost that game, yeah.
That's my fault. Yes.
But they were very close to winning it, yeah, and then they beat the Chargers as well. In that Monday night game with that last-second Le'Veon Bell touchdown. So they're capable of winning. They have a lot of pieces. They have more pieces than some teams do with a solid starting quarterback, let alone a backup quarterback. So we'll have to see. Benjamin.
Yes.
Do you have any more what's trending for us?
I do. I have a good one here. So, obviously, Bill Belichick, one of those guys, just like Greg Popovich in the NBA, doesn't have a lot to say. Very, very choice on his words. Neither of them have anything to say. Belichick did have something to say yesterday that lasted for
a lot.
5 minutes and 25 seconds.
Yeah.
So obviously I'm not going to tell you word for word because we don't have 5 minutes, 25 seconds to even just discuss what it was, let alone say his entire quote. But he was very vocal about Microsoft and their Surface Pro tablets and how he honestly hates them.
Yeah, if you go back a couple weeks when he threw one straight into the bench, like I've seen guys
against the Bills.
I've seen Rodgers kind of like drop one. Like nobody ever really seems to throw them with force. He straight threw it into the bench, like
that was
forcefully.
Fantastic, by the way.
I was like, bro, come on, like you are the definition of privilege. You just can toss those things around and not care. Like some guys toss theirs around or break on accident.
It's like if I had that and broke it,
exactly.
my heart would be crushed. And he acts like it's just a piece of paper.
Yeah, like it's still those binders, like they could throw around with the black and white pictures.
But so Belichick. Obviously, he said, as you probably noticed, I'm done with these tablets. There just isn't enough consistency in the performance of them. I just can't take it anymore. There's problems in every game due to connection issues. And, he's not a big fan of it. But Microsoft obviously countered back at him. So Microsoft goes and says, we respect Coach Belichick's decision, but stand behind the reliability of Surface. We continue to receive positive feedback on having Surface devices on the sidelines from coaches, players, and team personnel across the league. In the instances where issues are reported in NFL games, we work closely with the NFL to quickly address and resolve them. So,
do you
obviously,
think it's just an age thing, like an accelerating
like
age
a generation gap?
Like he just doesn't get them, he doesn't understand them. Like Tom's like, no, look, you gotta do this. My kid showed me. Like, no,
maybe.
do
I mean,
this.
Belichick seems like one of those guys that's like he would like have a flip phone. You know what I mean? Like Belichick seems like one of those guys.
I feel like Belichick would have no cell phone.
He just has a landline in his house.
Call me at the office.
He has a landline in his office.
Anyway.
He seems like one of those guys that just totally is not a technology guy.
No, he's totally got McDaniels just showing him how to do everything. Just check it out.
I mean, he is 64 years old. Like he's your grandpa's age. Like he's just a dude that's just kind of just like, I'm just gonna do this. That's fine. Like he has his offensive and defensive coordinator Patricia and McDaniel basically like, yeah, you guys figure out all the tech stuff. Just tell me what I have to do. All right, cool, good job.
And Matt Patricia looks like a typical hipster.
He looks like an Apple bar guy.
With his backwards hat 100%. And his gigantic beard. Like he looks like a total hipster guy. Like he's like, Bill, come on, you gotta you gotta swipe to the left. If you want to go to the right. You can't go right. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I guess it's kind of funny that Belichick actually had something to say about something for once because he never talks about anything.
This is the thing.
His famous quote is, "Oh, we're on to Buffalo. We're on to
England.
We're on to Pittsburgh Steelers.
We're on to Washington.
I'm not counting Roethlisberger out yet until I don't see him out there. So
I'll count him out when I see number 3 take the snap. Okay.
You know what I mean? So I guess it's kind of funny that he finally had something to say when he just totally says nothing every single post game. So.
Yeah, I love it. Anthony, do you have any what's trending?
So you look over into the NFL and everything's happening. You talk about the Vontaze Burfict. You talk about Tom Brady. You talk about all the stuff like that. I saw one thing that they probably, this doesn't have a little bit to do with sports, tiny little thing. They're going to bring Space Jam back to theaters.
The original? As long as
they're doing a promotional thing, but going back.
They're going to make another one.
I know.
They're going to make another one, so a kind of promotional thing for that. But switching back to the Cubs for a second, have you guys seen what Frank Kaminsky's been doing? Trolling the Cubs?
No.
I have seen this, yes.
Is he bringing goats out or something?
Sort of. So basically what he did was he's a Chicago White Sox fan, right?
You have no issue here, sir. Get out of here.
So
once you make the tournament, okay?
He basically, since he's a big old White Sox fan, he decided that he doesn't like the Cubs. He doesn't want any good to happen with the Cubs. He was walking around where was he walking around in? I think he was walking in Chicago, but I was trying to, in Chicago for a game against the Bulls, wearing a Steve Bartman jersey. Just trolling them, and the Cubs basically didn't like it. So then they started to go back and forth on Twitter about the whole thing, talking about, oh, you shouldn't be too salty with the loss, showing him when he lost to Duke, showing a picture of that. He comes back, trolling him with like Billy Goat pictures and everything else like that. So he's having a whole lot of fun just messing with Cubs and Cubs fans and just making them basically just try to get him to freak out before the actual game started. They're sending back stuff of Moises Alou, and he basically yelled at Steve Bartman for a good 10 seconds for no reason.
I mean, he shouldn't be so high and mighty either. They haven't won a World Series for 11 years.
But that's better than 100.
Better than 108.
Oh, yeah, because before that it was 1917.
But then they did win.
Yeah, but...
So you get to talk if you win.
You don't get to talk. Not if you're a White Sox fan. Sit down, Kaminsky.
I mean...
Okay.
I love the banter, by the way. I love it. I mean, that's great.
I love when teams banter back and forth. Or like arenas. There's the new Golden One Arena here in Sacramento, and it was an ad for Oracle, and they still have the slogan, the most premier sporting event center in Northern California or whatever. And they stayed to like retweet them back, and they're like, I don't know if that's so true anymore. And they kind of like wink face, and then they send them back this GIF of like a guy like looking at him and rolling their eyes and looking away. So I like when places do that. It makes me laugh.
I do love the banter though. We're seeing the same thing with the Cleveland Indians. Toronto's been kind of vocal about how like Indians are kind of stealing their signs and stuff, and then the Indians Twitter goes on and puts on a poll on their Twitter page and goes, oh, what will we get blamed for next? Like deflating baseballs. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I guess
Harambe.
I guess it's pretty funny. I don't have an issue with that. Like clowns. So I mean, I guess it's pretty funny. I don't mind the banter between teams. You've seen this all the time on Twitter.
I find it funny. I find it funny. I like it.
I do too.
Oh, all right. Well, I believe that's it for us today. Am I right?
I think it is.
Yeah, that's everything.
All right. Well, we'll be back tomorrow. At least Anthony and I will be back tomorrow morning. We will recap tonight's baseball games. We'll preview tomorrow's NFL Thursday night football game between the Bears and the Packers. And if we have to, we'll preview more baseball games. Well, I mean, we'll have to preview at least one. So if that's the case, we'll do so. Like I said, we'll be back tomorrow, but we want to thank you for listening. As always, I'm Alex.
I am Ben.
And I'm Anthony.
And we will see you guys tomorrow. You have a good rest of your day and enjoy your sports.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.